This is a HeadGum podcast.
Hello and welcome to The Complete Guide to Everything, a podcast about everything. I'm one of your hosts, Tom.
And I'm Tim, the other host.
How are you doing this week, Tim?
Tom, beep, beep, blorp, blorp, right?
Oh, what the...
I'm just making the ka-ching, ka-ching noises that a Game Boy will make.
It's incredibly accurate. I was confused at first. I thought it was...
You remember that song?
Yeah, I do remember.
Tetris.
Song's a banger, as they would say nowadays.
Yeah, because it's Game Boy week here on The Complete Guide to Everything.
All week.
All week, we've just been playing our Game Boys. Classic Tom topic.
Unfortunately, we're only putting out one episode this week, but it is... The rest assured, the entire week is still Game Boy week.
Yeah, we've been recording episodes every day this week about the Game Boy. We're just releasing this one.
Right. Well, the other ones haven't been up to snuff, so hopefully this one. Who knows? We've gone through a similar routine at the beginning of 5 of the episodes so far, saying, well, yeah, but this is going to be the good one, and it gets thrown out. So this might be just like the rest.
Top notch. This is how we maintain quality here. We record 40 hours every week to bring you this 1 hour.
All right, so did you say why it's Game Boy week?
No, I said it's a classic Tom topic.
Oh, yeah. It's Game Boy week because this week marks 30 years since the Game Boy came out in Japan.
Happy birthday, buddy. You're 30 years young.
Oh, thank you. It is my birthday this week, too, Tim.
Yeah, Tom.
That's actually why...
You wish it was your 30th.
I was bringing this up because I was just hoping to bring attention to my own birthday. I was like, oh, I'll be like...
How old a man are you? Do you want to say?
Lady never tells.
Okay. What about you?
Older than a Game Boy.
Yeah.
That's what I'll start. That'd be a weird thing for me to adopt when people ask how old I am, for me to just give a sassy older than a Game Boy. Be like, huh? Well, which Game Boy? Well, you like older than my Game Boy? The concept of Game Boy? I don't understand. But by then I would have already ran away.
Tom, I think in about 30 seconds you're going to say how old you were when the Game Boy came out.
Yeah, and which, for any math heads out there, they'll be able to figure it out pretty quick.
Yeah.
Get out the old compass.
Look, if there are any math heads listening, write in and tell us how old you think Tom is.
So yeah, 30 years ago. It came out this week in Japan, but it came out July 31st in the US of A.
So we're jumping the gun
which
a
is
bit.
where I was living at the time.
At the time.
Right. I've since hopped around a bit.
Real globetrotter.
I've been on vacation too.
You've been on numerous cruise ships, as I recall.
Yeah, which is international waters. So
Yeah.
I could have been playing any Game Boy there.
Yeah.
Nobody could have done a damn thing about it.
They can't touch you when you're out there.
Yeah, guess what? This is an import. This is a PAL region Game Boy.
Yeah, this is a Kirby's Adventure that would blow your mind if you saw it in one of the contiguous 48 states.
This is a Kirby's Adventure that was not released in the United States due to explicit sexual content.
Yeah. What is Kirby?
I'll tell you what, he's always sucking and blowing. So
Yeah,
it wouldn't
Tom.
have... What? That is what he does. So it wouldn't have been that... It would have... No, sometimes it's enemies. A lot of times it's enemies. That's his whole thing, man.
I never played a Kirby game. I wasn't allowed to due to all that
sucking and blowing.
Yes.
You know what? Yeah, it's going to be jumping the gun a little bit. Kirby was like a little bit past my time for games.
Yeah, you were Pac-Man.
No, I wasn't Pac-Man.
Pong.
I wasn't that old. No, but like Kirby...
That football game where the thing vibrates and all the pieces move around.
Oh, yeah. How did that thing work? What was like... How would
I think you just put your guys
game?
Down, and it was just the randomness of the motor.
Maybe. Yeah. Things used to be real boring, huh?
Pinball was pretty cool. You know what?
Pinball's still pretty good, yeah.
Pinball's good. And to think that they had pinball back in the 50s.
Yeah.
When did it start?
No.
Probably earlier than that.
No, like turn of the century. There was like not the same type of pinball.
Not the KISS pinball machine.
No, the KISS pinball machine didn't come till much later.
Yeah.
But there were games.
What about the T2 pinball game? Was that
was
turn
around.
of the 20th century? Okay.
Because back then they only had they had to make the plunger you would pull back out of a gun handle. Because the pinball plunger hadn't been invented yet. So they were like, well, we do have shotgun handles.
Yeah,
we
it
can
is
do
the
that.
Wild West after all.
Yeah. No, but like turn of the century, there were pinball-esque games, like pachinko-esque games. I don't know if they necessarily had the two bumpers, but maybe they did. Flippers, yeah. But
Come on, Tom.
things been around. No.
It's impressive because that's a game that holds up today.
Yeah, it's a fun game. It's loud. I wouldn't want one in my home unless I had a really nice home that was big enough that I could not have the pinball machine right next to my bed.
Like people who like video games could play pinball machines and still be like, this is fun.
Yeah.
But like kids these days, they have, I don't know, what, Tamagotchis? What do they have? Furbies?
What are you talking about?
What do kids play with? Little toys.
Like
yeah, but if you gave them a hobby
Nintendo
horse
Switch
or
a phone.
Is that all kids? Kids don't have toys anymore. They just have tablets.
No, they have toys too, but they have they play games. I thought we were talking about games.
Now I was talking about making an analogy to how much toys are better these days than they were back then.
Yeah, you don't need an imagination like you used to.
Right. Although you do see from like the 70s, the Muppets merchandise.
Uh-huh.
It's like you get a full-size Fozzie Bear that works as a puppet.
In the 70s?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Nah,
Muppet merchandise in the 70s was...
I
know what?
This is like your weird hang-up that like you didn't get like a perfect replica Kermit or whatever.
How
and that's
hard
why
could that
you
be
are
to mass produce?
How you are now.
How am I now, Tom?
Difficult.
Yeah, I'm pretty difficult. Sorry, it's the 30th anniversary of a handheld...
Tim, it's a Tom episode. You don't have to try and steer it towards how hard is it to make a reasonably priced Kermit.
Not even. It doesn't need to be reasonably priced, especially now.
I have disposable
I can afford.
income.
Yeah, I have enough disposable. If they had a
I'm
movie
sure they do.
and TV quality. No,
You
Tom,
haven't looked into it.
Are you kidding me? I haven't looked into it. Tom, I look into it every day of my
You're
life.
looking at the wrong places.
I was fired from my job for looking into it too much on company time.
just searching in Google different combinations
Yeah, I'll
of
get
Kermit,
to it later.
Kermit puppet real. All right, real Kermit puppet.
Yeah.
No,
It's tough.
Tim, we need those reports.
How much would you pay for a movie quality beaker
Oh,
or
like
Swedish Chef?
yeah.
Well,
Oh,
that
would be a big one.
But that should also be cheaper because you had to use your real hands.
Right, unless it came with like very realistic hands.
Right. Which is how
Which
they
I don't
display it
want.
at the Jim Henson exhibit at the Museum of the Moving Image.
Which makes sense. I mean, otherwise it would look weird. But
it's a bummer
it is
because
also weird to see.
yeah, because I'm looking at all the puppets. I'm like, oh, there's Fozzie. That's cool. Oh, hey, there's a Big Bird, which that is a big bird. When you're standing right next to it, Tom, you wouldn't. And then you get to the Swedish Chef, and you're just like, that's weird. They made these lifelike hands to display with the puppet.
Yeah.
And then you just wind up looking at the hands, and then you leave, and you're like,
Yeah,
I didn't even look at
should
the
have paid more
mustache.
attention,
Yeah.
Anyway, the Game Boy.
Yeah. 30 years young.
30 years.
It's bulky. Remember how bulky it is?
It's very bulky.
Explain to everybody who might not know
Yeah.
what a Game Boy is.
So Game Boy came out 30 years ago. It was really, I believe it was the first cartridge-based portable video game system.
Made by
Nintendo, who is still around today. Before the Game Boy, there were only really like LCD video game systems.
Those video games suck.
They suck so bad, and I had not so many of them, but I had a few as a kid.
Double Dragon.
I had Double
game.
Dragon. I had the baseball. The baseball game actually wasn't bad.
It wasn't. The thing with all of them is the backgrounds were just painted. They were just like
it was just
plastic.
like a sticker background and then a little black. It was, the same technology used in like a digital alarm clock.
Yeah.
LCD technology. Well, that's what they use nowadays too, but it was different. So it was only like little things that could light up. It wasn't really any kind of animation.
Yeah, it stunk. Those games stunk.
It stunk. And
I'm sorry, Mom and Dad, that as a stocking stuffer at Christmas, you probably spent $25 3 years in a row on those things.
Yeah.
I hated them. They were cool. Like, I was excited to get them.
Well,
but 15 minutes later, I was like, this thing is impenetrable. I can't figure this game out.
That's what I was going to say, that it was always I was fooled by them constantly. I was burned every time. But
they
every
look
time,
really cool. They look like they're going to be a lot of fun.
But then every time a new one came out that was based on, I remember I really wanted a Simpsons one when I was a kid. Because it was like, nah, this one looks awesome. This one looks... Tell you what,
probably
this
gonna
one's
be a lot
different.
like the cartoon on TV.
This one's a lot different from all the other ones, I can tell. And then you buy it, and it's exactly the same as the other ones.
Who made those? Konami? Temco
Acclaim.
or something? Acclaim.
Yeah, they had the license.
Yeah.
So, well, before this, Nintendo made Game & Watch. Do you remember those things?
No, I'm not an old man like you.
No, they weren't. They were before my time, too. But I do remember seeing them at Toys R Us on display, but they were very expensive.
Game & Watch?
Game & Watch. It was Nintendo. I think it might have actually been their first foray into video games. It might have predated the NES.
So it was a watch?
No, it actually looked like
you pointed to your wrist. The viewer couldn't. The listener couldn't see.
Yeah,
the viewer, me, could see.
Right.
So I thought it was a watch.
Meant to just throw you off and make you sound like a real dummy. Ooh, a watch? Game & Watch. You watch the game.
Oh.
I don't know. Maybe it had a watch too. It was like a clamshell thing. It actually looked a lot like the Nintendo DS, which came out later, was influenced by
the Nintendo Dual Screen.
Yes.
Is that what it stands for?
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
The Game & Watch, but the Game & Watch, there were like, I think 65 different ones, somewhere around there. But they were just like the old systems where you could only get, it was one game per device.
Yeah.
But then...
keep it moving. One game per device.
Yeah.
Move on the next one.
The guy who invented those also invented the Game Boy. Do you know how he came up with the idea for all these things?
By reaching into his imagination and making it happen?
He was on the train going to work in Japan, and he noticed that there was a Japanese businessman who was so bored because, this was the old days when everything was real boring. Mm-hmm. He was so bored that he was just absentmindedly pressing the buttons on his calculator just to entertain himself.
I mean, how much of a stretch is it if the video game systems exist in arcade games to be like, hey, I would like to have one of those in my hand that's portable with a screen on it?
Because
maybe that Japanese businessman was typing out 58008 and then turning it upside down.
It's true. Or
and then giggling like the Dickens.
Or 7734.
Whoa, Tom. Don't mess around with that.
Yeah, I think at the time he was the guy who came up with the idea of, all the video game systems now are either they're all hooked up to a television, which were CRTs back then, so the big giant heavy
cathode ray tubes.
Boy, you're really on top of all the acronyms.
Thank you, Tom.
Today. I've got one for you later. We'll see if you can guess it.
BYOB.
You got it.
MYOB. Man.
What is MYOB?
Mind your own business.
Oh, no, tell me. So, everybody, the people that were probably thinking, it'd be great if I had a video game I could take with me everywhere, but how the hell am I going to lug this giant TV around? Where this guy was thinking, what if I took the screens on calculators and made a game? And that's what Game & Watch was. It was the exact same type of display technology.
Right.
But then,
then he was like, man, that really sucked. I shouldn't have done that. These things suck.
These things suck. Actually, I think the Game & Watch were better than the Acclaim ones that we're
just
referring
read a
to.
book. At that point, just read a goddamn book. This Japanese businessman absent-mindedly pressing the buttons on a calculator. Jesus Christ, buy a book. Read a magazine.
Maybe he'd forgotten he was at the office.
You read that as him coming home from work. In my mind, it was him going to work.
Oh.
Interesting.
Wow.
Huh? I wonder what that reveals about our personalities.
I wonder which one was true. I wonder what, where would you be most bored?
Probably not coming home from work. You're
probably
just like,
tired.
you're
probably
raring
just
to
zoning
go.
out.
You're like, I'm free.
Oh, I'm thinking the other way around.
Shackles are off. This is my time now until bedtime. Till my mom or wife makes me go to bed. This is my time.
Arguably, bedtime's still your time.
Now it is. Now, Tom.
Mm-hmm.
I love going to sleep.
You're in charge. You get to decide.
I used to, and by used to, I mean like 3 or 4 weeks ago. I used to be like, I don't want to go to bed. Like I want to do fun things. I don't want to. And then something switch flipped.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, no, when I'm in bed, and I'm asleep.
That's the most fun a boy could have.
It's relaxing. My body recharges.
So
Get all my energy from that.
After they realized Game & Watch sucks, and the Nintendo Entertainment System,
Did they formally apologize?
the Nintendo Entertainment System by that time was full swing. People loved it. They were like, "What if we did that? We put cartridges in." So they came up with the
much like the Nintendo. This was post
Nintendo Entertainment System. Yeah.
Now you're playing with power.
Yeah. So, that campaign was actually even later.
No, I don't think so.
So they came up with the idea of Game Boy, which was we'll put cartridges in, just like everybody knows from Nintendo Entertainment System. But also, instead of just having like 3 different drawings that can light up, we're gonna come up with this different kind of screen. Tim, the Game Boy's model number is DMJ001. Do you know what the DMJ stood for?
Dynamite Jazz.
It's only so the M stands for the M in dynamite.
Yeah, dynamite. They spelled as 2 words.
Oh, okay. No, it's dot matrix game.
Oh,
because it had a dot matrix screen.
Man, much like my beloved printer.
Yeah, they were like, everybody loves these dot matrix printers. There's not much dot matrix technology in play nowadays.
You'd like to see it, though. I'd like to hear that noise again. Yeah.
Do you know what the display resolution?
No, why are we talking about this?
Because listen, I want to tell you, it was only 160 by 144 pixels.
Okay.
Do you know how big an icon on your iPhone is? How many pixels?
Like 1 million.
No, it's 114 by 114.
Oh.
So imagine playing a game and it has the same resolution as like the mail icon.
Yeah, I know. I did it on the Game Boy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Guess what? 30 years ago, technology wasn't as good as it was today.
The screen was only 2.6 inches.
Really?
Yeah. Super tiny.
Yeah.
I don't remember it being that tiny.
They put like
I was
a
smaller,
larger
though.
gray border around it.
Yeah,
to
but
make
that
it
never
seem...
fooled me. I knew that wasn't part of the screen. That part never changed.
Yeah.
One time it did. Tim, we were talking tech specs.
I thought we might be done with the tech specs.
No, I have one final technical specification for you, which is that it ran on 4 AA batteries for 15 hours, which is really not bad.
No.
And
I
then-
always felt like I was running out of batteries on that thing, though.
Yeah, me too, but I think it was just because we were playing the hell out of them all the time.
Yeah, car rides. I think I wasn't allowed to play them unless I was in the car.
I was allowed to, but I think I understood that I had like a strict battery budget.
Yeah.
You know, that I couldn't constantly be asking for batteries.
Batteries in the 80s.
Batteries in the 80s were so hard to come by and so expensive.
Yeah. I mean, they had them at most convenience stores, Tom.
I mean, hard to
Probably
come by.
every convenience
Hard-
for like How old were you when the Game Boy came out?
I was 8 when it came out.
Well, let's get those math
Another
wizards on
clue.
this.
Another clue to figure out how old I'm turning this week.
Hard for an 8-year-old to procure.
Well, I was going to say they were hard to come by in a home because I feel like in my home, at least, there were never spare batteries, you know?
Yeah.
Like nobody bought.
You'd find some in the junk drawer, but it's like, how'd they get there? They're probably old. You just didn't,
it's a grab bag, whatever's in the junk
then
drawer.
you got an Energizer and a Duracell in the same remote, and it's like, is this thing gonna catch on fire?
Yeah, or like you got a Duracell, like a nice battery, but then you've got
some CVS bullshit.
Yeah, and it's like this battery is real light compared to the other one. I don't know if this is gonna do anything.
Did you ever lick a 9-volt to see if it's got any charge?
Man,
I'm too afraid.
Come on, you've never licked a 9-volt?
Well, to be fair, I probably haven't seen a 9-volt battery in 20 years. But before that, yeah, no, I was
desperately trying to think if I have a 9-volt battery somewhere.
Yeah, I'll lick it.
Yeah, well, if I do have one, I will need to see if it's got any charge or not.
I'll do the 9-volt challenge.
Yeah, I mean, it just kind of gives you a little zap and tastes gross. Tastes very metally.
Yeah,
but it's nice. It's something to do. It's better. Hey, it's better than just absentmindedly punching the keys of a calculator.
Yeah.
What if he saw the guy doing that and then occasionally sneaking a lick of a 9-volt battery? And that's
like, all right, this guy's pretty cool. This guy isn't so lame.
Yeah.
He's a bit of a daredevil.
So, batteries. You could... nobody bought batteries unless you needed them for something.
Yes. That's the point of batteries.
No,
they're
because
utilitarian objects.
Recently, I realized how cheap batteries are, and I think they're just cheap because you don't need them anymore.
Because I don't think they were that cheap back in the day.
No, they're cheap now because you don't need them. I'm trying to explain supply and demand to you, for God's sake.
Stop yelling at me. We're on the same side, Tom.
I bought. I think I panicked. I thought it was like a price mistake. I bought like a 36-pack of batteries. One time years ago, and I still have so many of those batteries because what the hell am I going to do with them?
I have a controversial opinion or idea to float for the battery industry.
Okay.
And for all the battery needing product industry. Anything that needs batteries. Just change it all to AAA.
Well, sometimes things need AA.
Yeah, but that's stupid. We're changing them all. There should be one battery size at this point. We can figure it out. I have a remote at my house, Tom, for the TV, and I only use it for the volume, right? And so I noticed lately it's been a little bit more difficult to turn.
Press it harder.
Yeah, or it doesn't always take in the first thing. It's like I think I'm out of batteries. Now that I'm thinking of it, Tom, you live right next door to a supermarket. I'd love to, it's fresh on my mind. When I leave here tonight, we're recording at your apartment.
Yeah.
Go down and buy some batteries. I don't know if it's AA or AAA.
I got some AAAs if you need them. I'd be
Thank
happy
you, Tom.
to let you take them off my hands.
But aren't we at the point where so few things need batteries these days that they should all just take one type of battery and we could figure out the technology around, this needs a 9-volt. No, it doesn't. It needs a AA. And it's all batteries. It's all power.
I will counter your argument.
batteries.
Well,
what kind of maniac has D batteries in it?
I would argue that we have come a long way because when's the last time you found yourself in need of D or C size batteries?
That's true. Let's just take the plunge, go the extra step.
Look, it's a process, Tim. We're slowly eliminating. We'll get down to just watch batteries and then hearing aid batteries.
What's a C battery? Just a slightly smaller D battery?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had some flashlights that were either C or D.
Yeah,
but now,
flashlights, you'll find.
LED lighting
in
there.
You don't need all that.
You don't need that kind of power.
They'll still sell. You can still find C batteries if it's like a flashlight that's supposed to double as like a bludgeoning tool.
Yeah, that's true. But why don't you just put
Nah, because C batteries are heavy. Put rocks in there?
Yeah, or like just put a steel thing that you'll never have to replace.
You know what? Probably to save on shipping, because they don't want to pay those shipping costs. They're like, we'll ship them to you. You put the C batteries or rocks inside.
Yeah, just put rocks in there. Just have an empty compartment in there, and you could even fill it with water. Who cares?
Well, I mean, you could do that now. Nothing's stopping you.
Well, if
you're saying
it needs
put
C
like
batteries,
a watch battery in there, but still have a big compartment for rocks.
Yeah,
Okay,
right.
yeah.
If you need to use it as a bludgeoning tool,
Yeah.
also.
I've been thinking about buying some kind of a bludgeoning tool for home defense.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, we should.
I was thinking of just buying an aluminum bat to have next to my bed.
That's, you know what? Maybe it was the same thing. Like, I just recently heard somebody talking about, like, oh, everybody's got like a bat next to their bed. And I was like, I don't have a bat next to my bed.
It's not 1987 where we don't need that in New York City, do we?
But then I was like, maybe I do need that. I was trying to find like a collapsible baton. I think they're illegal in New York City.
Yeah.
Though.
You don't even need one in your home.
What?
What do you need the space?
No, because like if there's like a home invasion, I want to like put it behind my back and do the whole like, oh no, you got me, I'm giving up, and I'm putting my hands up, right?
Right.
And then I reach behind and I grab it and I say something like, but you forgot one thing.
You should always announce before your surprise attack.
And then I extend the baton so it's, more dramatic.
Yeah. And then what do? I don't think I could hit somebody with a bat or a baton.
Not even if they were like in your bedroom?
I think I would. Yeah. I think I could. I don't know.
Like a baseball bat, though, you need a lot of room.
Yeah, that's true.
You need to wind up, you need to warm up.
Yeah, let me take some. You got to put that donut on.
Yeah,
take some
put the donut on, get some practice swings.
Yeah. When you do that, I'm not going to say what I was going to say.
What were we talking about? Oh, batteries. Yeah. So a lot of people say that this is why the Game Boy won the portable console wars, because all the other consoles, which I'm gonna name in a moment, it's contemporaries.
Don't give them the free publicity. The things that they said about Game Boy in their commercials.
It's true.
Disgusting.
So the other ones, they all were technically superior and in color. However, the fault of them was that they all required more batteries and got significantly less battery life.
Right.
And they didn't understand their target market of kids who can't just go to the store and buy batteries.
Get batteries?
I knew where to get them, but, at night I can be like, Mom, we have to go to CVS. I need you to buy, $7 worth of batteries so I can play games for 15 more hours. I did eventually get an AC adapter for home use. I never got a car adapter. I was always angling like, hey, let's get one of those car adapters. But I think my parents were like, no, I don't want like a cable snaking through the car.
Why not?
I think
Your parents hate snakes?
Yeah.
No. That's a good answer.
I think it was also like a question of like, how much power does this thing draw? Like, you're going to have like a dead car battery from this stupid thing.
You're going to go back to the parking lot at the Grand Canyon. Your car's not going to start. Jackass.
Well, my
playing.
Game Boy's charge. It didn't charge it. It would just run it.
Right.
So the contemporaries, Tim, were the Sega Game Gear, the Atari Lynx, and the NEC Turbo Express.
Now, the Atari Lynx
was 16-bit.
Yeah, and the big draw there was that you can link them up together with a wire, and you could play against your friends.
You could do that with the Game Boy, too.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, I think the Atari Lynx, you could do it with like 8 people or something.
Yeah,
it had like 2 ports, so you could daisy chain. Yeah,
because the commercial was a bunch of boys at school in the bathroom in the stalls. And they had daisy chained across a few stalls, and the teacher comes in and busts them for playing Lynx in the bathroom.
Yeah. Story as old as time.
And the teacher's like, I thought you guys said you were going to take a shit. I didn't think you'd be playing video games.
I don't remember a teacher ever coming into the bathroom.
No, if I was a teacher, I'd stay out of the bathroom.
Yeah, look, I don't need to know what's going on.
Can of
in there.
worms. Yeah,
I got enough.
And like
problems.
the liability of like, hey, I'm going to go. The mess. Yeah, stick to the bathroom in the teacher's lounge. That's
why
my
else
policy.
did you become a teacher if you're not going to use that one? No, the links, the whole thing. There were a few things. One was that it was color. It was 16-bit, which nobody really knew what that meant, but it was like, whoa.
It was more than 8-bit, which is our stupid Game Boys had. And our Game Boys were the color of creamed spinach, they said.
Yeah, pea soup.
Yeah.
The Atari Lynx also had an interesting feature that I don't think anybody gave a flying poop about, where you could turn it so you could play it left-handed or right-handed. But nobody did that.
I mean, I'm left-handed, and I'm not good at video games. But you just had to learn how to play video games. Yeah, because it was like, well, there's no
other... I don't have a way to play any other video game in history left-handed. Yeah. Unless I'm doing like a cross... where I've got my arms crossed from each other. Sometimes you would see people doing that, and it was like, video games just aren't for you.
Yeah.
Go. You can use a calculator. Those you can use either hand. That's what's for you.
Yeah, go absent-mindedly peck away at a calculator on a commuter train.
So all these systems actually, not only was the battery life not as good, they were all more expensive too, which is the other thing I forgot. Do you remember the Turbo Express?
No, what was that? TurboGrafx 16?
Yes. So
well, as you know, only trash families had TurboGrafx 16.
I won a TurboGrafx from the newspaper, Tim.
I know, Tom.
2 of them.
I know, Tom. And the fact that you brought that up more than anything else ever over the 10 years we've been doing this podcast.
By far the most interesting thing that's ever happened.
It is your greatest accomplishment. And when did it happen? How old were you?
It was probably around that time. So it's probably like 8 years old.
30 years ago.
Yeah.
Tom, you're living in the past. And you'd make fun of somebody who's like, man, he's living his old high school football glory days, huh? He never progressed. You wrote to the newspaper, and won two trash game systems.
It came with Bonk's Adventure and Bloody Wolf too.
Yeah,
the 2 games I would have wanted most to begin with.
Let's talk about games that the Game Boy came with.
I think it also came with basketball.
Wow. You know what I did? I played actual basketball down at the courts, Tom.
No, you didn't.
My brother did.
Turbo Express, though, was, I believe, the first video game system that was a portable version of a home system. So as such, it was super expensive. I think it ran on 8 AA batteries.
Sheesh.
Something crazy. That was always like, to this day, I don't think I've seen one in person. That was always like a pipe dream system of like, wow, can you imagine being so rich you could have a Turbo Express?
Well, or, you just opened up the newspaper every day to see if they were running a contest.
Oh, man, I would have loved to have won a Turbo Express.
Man, imagine there was a contest in the newspaper when you were a kid that was like, and the winner gets 500 AA batteries.
I would have been.
Like, I'll be in business for years.
Yeah, I'll never have to go outside again.
Yeah.
And then Sega Game Gear, which I had a Sega Game Gear.
Of course, because the trashiest people had multiple systems.
Sega Game Gear was awesome.
Yeah.
I was more of a Sega kid. Like, the Nintendo Game Boy was the only Nintendo system I had growing up until I got a Super Nintendo.
Did your house have a front door?
Yeah, and a back one, Tim.
All right.
Anyway, you were...
A bunch of car parts strewn across your lawn?
It's my birthday week, Tim. You're supposed to be nice to me.
That's not a rule of birthdays.
But you brought up a good point. Let's talk about the games, the initial batch of games available for the Game Boy.
Tom, I'll tell you one thing.
Mm-hmm.
They did a thing. There was a commercial on TV.
Mm-hmm.
I remember it really appealed to my father. It was a businessman waiting to get on a plane.
That's like me.
And then, Tim, hey, kids, come in here. They're showing my lifestyle on TV.
Yeah,
Businessman. Look, a man in a suit, just like your old dad.
Your dad put down the calculator for a goddamn minute and started paying attention to TV.
No, and I don't know if my dad was actually really into it or if I just thought like, I should show my dad this commercial now that I'm thinking about it.
But back then there was no way to show somebody a commercial.
Yeah,
it was like,
I'm just
well, we'll
calling.
watch TV for a few hours, and then when this comes on, I'll scream like a
I
maniac.
mean, there was taping things off TV.
Yeah, but you would tape a commercial and cue up a commercial to show somebody.
Anyway, it was a business. It wasn't run during children's programming. It was like during prime time.
Yeah.
The guy
They were going
waiting
after
for a
the
plane
adult.
and then boarding a plane, but he was distracted because he was playing Tetris the whole time. And the whole conceit was an adult this into video games?
Yeah.
What? And then it was like,
What is he, a baby?
And actually, Tetris is quite a sophisticated puzzle game. And like, you know this, like your parents probably were like into Tetris a little bit, right?
That was like the only game on my Game Boy that they'd be like, let me play a little of that Tetris.
But nowadays, like, I bet if you saw that commercial, that whoever was playing the businessman was 31 years old.
No,
And it was like,
back then it probably was like a 50-year-old guy. That was kind of what they would do because whenever
Tom, in 1989, all 30-year-olds looked like they were
that's
50.
true.
They all had kids. Oh, I have a 13-year-old kid.
Yeah, yeah. So Tetris was a phenomenon.
Yeah.
And that came bundled with the Game Boy. The Game Boy was the first video game system I remember buying with my own money.
Wow.
Yeah. I think I might have bought it that summer. I might have gotten it the summer it came out. I remember being real
Where did
excited
you get
about
money
it.
when you were 8?
I stole it.
Okay.
Yeah, I would steal.
Your parents were just like, nope, you have to use the money you stole from
Yeah.
the church.
From whenever the collection plate would go around. No, I think it was like doing chores and stuff, but it was all like nonsense chores. It was like hey, how about I wash the cars and you pay me for it? Like I would just come up with things that I wasn't good at doing.
I mean, washing the car is a necessary task.
Yeah, but an 8-year-old Tom isn't going to do a good job washing the car.
Yeah, that's true. It's probably more work for your parents. Your dad like teaching you how to wash the car.
I probably had to. Oh, absolutely, because I was probably like, hey, like, all right, you have to like go get all the stuff for me so I can
pick up some batteries while you're out.
But yeah, I did chores or whatever, and like, no, I had birthday money too, because this is a few months after my birthday.
Yeah.
So I had like saved
Who
up
gave
and got
you money for your 8th birthday? Grandparents.
Grandparents
I guess.
were
Yeah.
always big on cash.
Yeah.
I remember that might have been the summer that I got a $20 bill, and I thought I am the richest a kid's ever been.
Yeah. Well, then, how much did a Game Boy cost? $100?
$90.
$90.
Which in today's dollars, $183.99.
Wow. Back in
with
my
inflation and whatnot.
day. Yeah. Tom, we're both uncles now.
Yeah.
Different kids. But I think my move is going to be like on my niece and nephew's birthdays.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to be like, here's $800.
Here's more money than you know what to do with.
Exactly.
Here's $1,000.
Yeah. And I'll wait till they're like 8 to do that.
Right.
But then it's like, oh man. And then whatever like video game my brother, or whatever system my brother like doesn't want this kid to have, like, you know what? We're not going to be a video game household. It's going to be like, sorry, this kid has money to buy it himself. What are you going to, this kid has rights. This is America after all.
Sorry, I bought them that system, the VR headset, and 15 games to go with it.
No, I didn't buy it.
Oh, you just gave him money.
I just gave him $1,600 for his 9th birthday.
Yeah, but you have to then be like, and I'll drive you to go get it.
Oh, yeah, of course. I'll drive anybody anywhere they want to go. My nephew, for God's sake.
So yeah, it came with Tetris. I remember Tetris came in the box, and Tetris was great because that was probably the one game that you would always go back to. Like when you got bored with other games, you'd be like, let me throw in Tetris for a little bit.
I go back to Tetris to this day, Tom.
Exactly. But I do remember the game that I bought, which I was so excited for, was Super Mario Land.
Yes.
Which, looking back, is a very weird Mario game.
In what sense? I don't remember it super well.
It doesn't play like other Mario games. It doesn't control the same. Like he's a little bit like slipperier.
Oh yeah.
The power-ups are different. The enemies are different.
They were 8 bits, man.
Nintendo was 8-bit too.
Yeah, but it was also 2.5 inches.
It's true. But the later games, Super Mario Land 2 and 3, were much more like regular Mario games.
Right.
This was just kind of, I think, it was the first game. They were kind of conservative. They didn't really know what, and I think it wasn't the people that normally make Mario games that worked on this.
Right.
But I remember, I love the hell out of that game. It was
a good game.
It was a good game.
And especially for the time, having something like that portable,
it was
having that
mind-blowing.
even moderately
Yeah.
replicate the experience of playing Super Mario Brothers was incredible.
Yeah, and as somebody that, when I was a kid, desperately wanted an NES but screwed up and didn't get one because I asked
wound up
for
getting 2 TurboGrafx 16s.
I asked for the wrong system, and then by then it was too late. This was a great way into the Mario world for me.
Right. The Mario Land.
It's true. I recently found out that apparently the entire game is only like a half hour long.
Really?
It's very short, which makes sense because I remember beating it a bunch of times.
I never beat it.
But it's a very short game.
Yeah, it was for kids.
Yeah, but I liked it.
It also launched with Alleyway.
Mm-hmm. Which is like a breakout.
Yeah. I always got bored with Alleyway.
Yeah, you play it sometimes in like the bowling alley arcade,
Yeah.
but it wasn't that great. At least then it had the knob.
Yeah.
This had no knob.
No knob.
Tennis, which I
don't think I ever played it.
I might have had tennis, or maybe a friend had tennis and I borrowed it. I remember playing tennis. I remember it being fun.
Then baseball.
I remember also borrowing baseball and playing that.
My
and it
brother
also
really
being
liked
fun.
baseball, the video game, and the regular game. I didn't care much for the video game. I felt like it didn't capture the nuances of an actual baseball game.
That's probably true.
Yeah.
Yeah, and those were all the games at first.
Well,
Very
Tom,
basic
there
games.
was a game in Japan
Mm-hmm.
that didn't come out here in the U.S.
And what was that
or
game?
in Europe. Yakuman.
Oh, of course, Yakuman.
And you know what that was? A mahjong game.
Ah, makes sense. They love mahjong in Japan.
Yeah, who knew that they could also gotten old ladies on board here?
That's true. I'm sure.
Have you ever heard it pronounced mahjong?
No. I'm
Bunch
sure
of people
there
I know
were.
call it mahjong. I'm not sure. I think it's a thing. It might be a regional thing.
Maybe. Have you been traveling to other regions and talking with elderly women lately?
Yeah, actually, I do it quite frequently.
I'm sure there were mahjong games that came out later. I think Nintendo probably rightfully said, hey, let's...
We don't need to target the old ladies just yet.
Right now. You know what? We
for
have a
now,
limited
it's
launch.
8-year-olds and businessmen
Yeah.
who travel.
Can I tell you my favorite Game Boy games that I remember owning?
Okay.
Super Mario Land, I mentioned. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
That game, I couldn't understand what the turtles were supposed to be. The graphics on that game were so bad.
No, the graphics were good. Not the Nintendo Entertainment System version.
Okay,
The Game Boy version, which was different. It had very good graphics. How dare you?
I'm skeptical.
I mean, I'm sure it sucked, but I was at the perfect age. I love Ninja Turtles. It was great.
Did I tell you I beat the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles arcade game?
You did that, what, a week ago?
Yeah.
You've told me 3 times.
Tom, I'm trying to relate to you. I did it to impress you.
You also told me that you had, like, essentially unlimited tokens to do
Not
it with.
essentially unlimited. I had literally unlimited tokens.
Yeah, you can beat any arcade game if you've got enough money.
Yeah, and I did.
Buying your way to the top.
Yes.
Like
I put my name in
Coastal Elite.
in the thing. It's still there. I assume it's still there. I haven't been back.
You didn't put ass? What's
No, I
wrong
put
with
Tim.
you?
This is what the top 10 looks like. ass, ass, Tim, ass, 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 ass.
Nice.
Yeah. Tim and a bunch of asses.
Yeah. Castlevania.
Pennsylvania.
Good one. Very, very a quick wit. Castlevania, which I liked.
Yeah.
Maybe my favorite Game Boy game, DuckTales.
I don't remember any of these.
You remember DuckTales for NES, right?
No.
Where he would hop on he would hop on his cane. You don't remember that?
I wasn't a big fan of the licensed properties.
Yeah, but the DuckTales games were really good.
I think I was smart enough to know that, like, these are cash grabs.
The DuckTales games were not cash grabs. They were labors of love. No, they actually...
Scrooge McDuck was just trying to add to his
that was
room
the thing.
Full of coins.
That was the thing. He promised everyone he was so rich that he didn't need to do this. Yeah. That this was purely... he was doing it because it was fun.
It doesn't matter. You get that rich... You have this maniacal obsession with getting more and more money.
Well, that's not what he said. It was a very good game.
Duped by the 1% yet again, Tom.
You would pogo.
Oh, I'm acting in your best interest. Sure thing, McDuck.
You would pogo on your cane. It was a lot of fun. And then I also had a game called Pipe Dreams, which is pretty fun. It was like a puzzle game.
Yeah, I remember Pipe Dreams.
Yeah, that was another fun one.
Yeah. I had to share a Game Boy with my brother for a while. That stunk.
Yeah.
And I got my own finally.
You'd control the D-pad and he controlled the A and B.
It's called the D-pad?
Yeah, directional pad.
No. That was fine. I got a Game Boy Color, I think in 1999, maybe 2000, right before I went off to college. Donkey Kong Country for that game. I still play that. I don't actually. I found my Game Boy Color recently and it didn't work anymore. But the Donkey Kong Country...
Did you try putting new batteries in there?
No. Where am I going to get batteries?
Let me take a look at that Game Boy. I'm sure that Game Boy works because that's the thing about Game Boys, that they're freaking indestructible. Do you know about this Game Boy that was bombed in the Iraq War?
No. The first one?
The first Iraq War.
Desert Storm?
Desert Storm.
Is Stormin' Norman?
Stormin' Norman Schwarzkopf. It was his Game Boy. No, it wasn't his Game Boy, but it was a soldier's Game Boy.
Remember when they sold trading cards for Operation Desert Storm?
Mm-hmm.
You'd buy them and you'd be like, hey, check out this military guy I got. Or check out this villain, one of Saddam Hussein's sons or somebody, or the Minister of Defense of Iraq.
Well, that was later. That was the second time.
No. You're thinking of the deck of cards. You're thinking of the deck of cards that came out. I'm thinking of the trading cards.
No, but when the trading cards, the Minister of Information from Iraq, he wasn't like a guy. That was during the second Iraq War that he became like a known guy.
No. They had cards of people.
But they had that guy back then? Before he was big?
It was a position. It might not have been the same guy.
Yeah. Well.
You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying here?
Yeah, but it wouldn't have been as
like we also
of
had
card.
a Secretary of State, even though it wasn't the same Secretary of State as, they can be multiple guys in these roles.
Yeah, but I'm just wondering
ladies.
if they had a card for that position. I don't think they had many villain cards.
They did, Tom. Because I remember feeling weird about it. And because the subtext of this is like, hope this guy's dead, right?
Mm-hmm. So this Game Boy was bombed out. It got all like burned and like blown up, kind of like it's like the plastic all like melted and bubbled up.
Uh-huh.
That Game Boy is still running in the Nintendo store in New York City. It's like under glass, but it's playing Tetris. Like it's plugged into an AC adapter because they realize like, well,
it's like the eternal flame. Like you got to hook it up to a gas line.
Well, yeah, because they realize, Jesus, we're gonna run ourselves out of business buying all these batteries otherwise.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, 30 years later and surviving a bomb blast, it's still running. So your Game Boy, the Game Boy Colors, I can't imagine were as sturdy as the original Game Boy, which was a freaking brick. But I think they were pretty sturdy. So I say get some new batteries.
It's really not that important to me.
I wish I had my Game Boys. Like, I sold all them.
Game Boys?
Yeah, because I had a Game Boy, and then I had a Game Boy.
I think I've graduated to Game Man at this point.
I think I had a Game Boy, and then I had a Game Boy Pocket. Like, I sold my Game Boy, got a Game Boy Pocket, and then
What's
I sold...
a Game Boy Pocket?
It was just a smaller version of the Game Boy.
Okay.
And then I sold that and got a Game Boy Color.
Mm-hmm. What color was yours?
My Game Boy Color?
Uh-huh.
I believe it was yellow.
Mine was green. Still is green to this day.
I think that's actually the most valuable one.
Really?
Yeah. I think it's worth like a couple $100.
Wow.
Yeah. If you still had it in the box, it'd be worth a lot.
Why would I keep the box?
No, you keep it sealed in the box.
Why would I do that?
Because it'd be worth more money.
That's my... I buy something for $120, wait 20 years and get $200 back.
No, if it was in the box...
What an investment.
If it was in the box, I think it's worth like $800.
Still, not enough for me. Like, even if I had known that, I think I'd be like, nah, I'm fine.
I'll just play. Well, you probably thought, like, you know what? By then, I'll be a millionaire, so I wouldn't even care about $800.
Or, like, if I had put $120 in an index fund in 1999.
Yeah, but you wouldn't have known how to do that. You did know how to go buy a Game Boy.
I didn't know how to, at like 17 years old, buy a Game Boy for like 1/8 of my net worth and then not use it and then not lose it over the next 20 years.
Well, it sounds like you're irresponsible. It sounds like you're blaming society.
I'm blaming
for how
anybody for anything. I think
are.
it's a shitty plan on your part.
You should have just kept a hold of it.
Nothing happened. It's nobody's fault. There's nothing.
I mean, it's
there
your
was
fault.
No
You'd be $800 richer. You're not even playing that Game Boy now anyway, so you might as well have just
have
kept
all that
it.
money to give to my nephew for his birthday.
Yeah,
too.
you
You're right.
And then there was the Super Game Boy, which was a cartridge you would plug into Super Nintendo that had a Game Boy slot. I remember renting it from Blockbuster Video, and it was neat, but it was also like, that is all right. Yeah, I could just play a Game Boy. And if I'm going to play Super Nintendo, let me play a Super Nintendo game. It looks a lot better.
Exactly. Can I tell you something that I really didn't like on the original Game Boy?
What's that?
Look.
The lack of backlighting.
Yeah, Tom. But beyond that,
okay,
because again, a lot of family car trips.
Mm-hmm. Make you car sick when you play it.
No, sometimes those would go into the night. Lack of backlighting. Guess what? Nintendo had an answer: a big bulky light that you put over it. Didn't even really do like the angle of the light just kind of reflected off. You couldn't really see the screen that well.
Yeah, I had a thing that would plug into the link cable slot, and it was essentially a book light.
Right.
It was a little tiny lamp. But to get it at an angle where it lit the screen but didn't cause so much glare that you couldn't see what was on the screen was very difficult.
Yeah.
And for people that don't know this, you know, again, welcome back to Two Old Men Complaining About Old Things Hour. These screens did not have a backlight, which meant they did not emit light. Like, you know when you're in a dark room and you turn your phone on, it's like, that's bright.
Yeah. You know when you're on a commuter train and you take out your calculator, but it's night, so you can't see the funny phrases that you're typing in and then turning it upside down?
Boobs or hell.
Yeah.
That's what this was like. You couldn't see it unless you had an external light source. But not too bright of a light source either. Like, you couldn't really play it outside because then it would just wash the whole thing out.
Right. Oh, it did have that contrast wheel.
Oh, yeah, contrast slider. Yeah.
Tom, let me ask you this.
Uh-huh.
Was there a Game Genie for the
There was.
Game Boy?
I never had it, but interesting fact about the Game Genie, it was huge, but then it had a little door that held a little booklet with all the codes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's actually, I just saw it recently, in this coverage of the 30th anniversary. I was like, oh, that's really neat.
What are your news sources that they cover the 30th anniversary of Game Boy?
I get USA Today left on my doorstep every morning.
Okay. You do live at the plaza.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the perks.
Yeah.
I'm going to read it cover to cover and up right on the front page. they were talking about the Game Boy Game Genie.
Wow.
Another fun fact. Do you remember the Game Boy camera?
Vaguely.
So the Game Boy camera at the time held the Guinness World Record for smallest digital camera.
Wow. That's a Guinness record that I've been chasing
Yeah.
for
well,
years.
Since then it's been beaten by literally every camera you could buy today. But at the time, it was a weird little thing that it looked like a webcam. Like it was a little ball,
Right.
but it was attached to a cartridge, and you would plug that whole
really crappy pictures that you couldn't tell what they were.
Horrible pictures, and you could also buy a printer. Then you could print out those black and white, very pixelated images. But one of those cameras was used for the cover of Neil Young's Silver and Gold album.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's a Game Boy camera picture.
Wow. Neil Young, always on the cutting edge of technology.
Yeah, it's like, give me one of those Game Boy cameras.
Oh, you think that's the way he talks?
Yeah, is that the way he talks? Why does he sing that way if that's not the way he talks?
He's got the voice of an angel. You go to hell.
Well, he's got the voice of an angel and the camera of a child.
All right. Anything else about the Game Boy? Look, I just feel like you spent way too long on the specs, and we ran out of time to talk about anything interesting.
Well, to some people, the specs are what's most interesting of them all.
Oh, brother.
Only like a 4 megahertz processor, Tim.
Why did they make it gray?
Well, they made it black and white because that was cheap, and it was
No. The actual.
Oh, the console?
Yeah.
I mean, the NES was gray. I think that was probably just the color that was the easiest to make and showed the less like dirt or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like a friendly. I mean, a lot of electronics back then were gray. That was just kind of a style thing, I think. I mean, and later on they made, as we were talking about, a million different colors of Game Boys.
That's true. I have the most valuable one, Tom.
Yeah. But I mean,
I'll bring it by next week. We can play some Donkey Kong Country.
Why were iPods white?
Because that was the iconic color.
Yeah, well, you could say the same thing about the Game Boy. That was the iconic color.
I remember the volume went up real loud.
Yeah.
You get those things pretty loud.
Yeah. And I also remember occasionally plugging headphones in and kind of being blown away at how much better it sounded.
Yeah. And then one other thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? I'll save till after the plugs.
No, okay. Wow. Oh, there's a tease. Is it a tech spec?
It's not a tech spec, but it's about as exciting as a tech spec.
Oh, well, if that's not going to keep people sitting through the plugs, I don't know what will.
Yeah, well, I didn't lead with it for the first 20 minutes, just being like, oh, here's the exact number of pixels. You had a lisp because you were...
Such a nerd.
Yeah.
If you like the show, you can check out tcgt.com for more. You can follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/Complete Guide. Follow us on Twitter @Complete Guide. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram @Tom Reynolds.
Follow me at your pal Tim.
You can support the show by going to tcgt.com/Amazon for your Amazon shopping. Hey, maybe pick up a Game Boy while you're there.
Maybe a DS.
3DS.
3DS.
Or a Nintendo Switch even.
Yeah.
We got to bump up. Get them spending.
Yeah. Let's upsell all these guys. Hey, maybe you should buy a car.
Hey, maybe it's your nephew's birthday.
Yeah.
You can also support us through patreon.com/Complete Guide for weekly episodes of our sister podcast.
Books, the podcast.
Yeah. This week we're going over, I watched The Outsiders movie. So we're wrapping up The Outsiders and moving on to a new book.
Yeah, Tom, did you put up that
Nope.
Well, as of right now,
yes.
You better have. As of when people are listening to this.
Patreon.com.
A new poll for what the next book is going to be.
Patreon.com/Complete Guide. Check it out. Tim.
Hold on. Two things, 2 orders of business. Thank you for leaving some nice reviews. If you could rate and review us on Apple Podcasts and wherever you listen to your podcasts, that'd be very helpful because there are some scoundrels out there that want to say some bad things about us, and we don't like that. I mean, it's fine. Hey, look, everybody has their own opinion, but if you like this show, it would be a nice thing to do to let the world know. So 5 stars only. And to the people of Chicago, we're coming and doing a show, and a lot of you guys know that because the show sold out.
Yes.
And when is it? It's in June something, Father's Day.
June 16th, I believe.
Yeah. Sorry if it didn't sell out. People have been emailing and tweeting and stuff. If you didn't get tickets, if anything becomes available, be sure to we'll post it to Twitter. We'll post it to the Reddit thing. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
Do we direct people to Reddit? Go to the subreddit, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know. We're aware that it's sold out. We personally don't have access to more tickets, but if anything happens, please follow us on social media, and we'll try to get that out there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Look, I don't know.
Yeah.
We're just too goddamn popular in the Midwest.
It's true. Everybody's been talking about it.
Yeah.
You really took advantage of this hook you've got for this interesting tidbit to get.
What I was
plugs
saying, those weren't even plugs. That was housekeeping.
But these people are on bated breath.
I was
to hear.
a big fan of the puzzle game Dr. Mario.
I never had Dr. Mario.
And I was a big fan on the Nintendo Entertainment System. And the way that worked, it was kind of Tetris-esque.
Yeah.
Except
things falling, you got to find places to put them.
Yeah. But there were pills. And each side of the pill, had a different color. Mm-hmm. And you had to match the colors. And then when you would do that, the lines would disappear. Right? So it was Tetris-esque, but they added a color element. And then I hear on Nickelodeon, they announced on a commercial that Dr. Mario is coming to the Game Boy.
They announced on a commercial. It was a commercial.
And I'm thinking, how the hell are they going to do this on a Game Boy? Without the colors. It's going to be too confusing. Everything's just going to look black. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, no way, I'm out.
Dude, so you were watching TV and you're like, oh, this is bullshit.
Yeah, pretty much. I was like, they're going to besmirch the reputation of
Dad, get in here.
Of a great game. Turns out it comes out, they don't use straight up colors. They use kind of like patterns. Yeah. Worked great. I loved it.
So you thought they were going to put out a game that was unplayable.
He was also 9 years old. I was like I thought like maybe something like that would happen.
Yeah.
There've been bigger blunders. New Coke.
Tim, that's what the Nintendo seal of approval is all about, though. They wouldn't have gotten that seal. You would have had to buy that game in a back alley.
Yeah, that's true. Well, anyway, I'm glad that tease really paid off.
I had a really nice carrying case for the Game Boy.
Of course you did.
That I sold when I sold the Game Boy, and I regret it. It was so minimalistic but great. The Game Boy would store on its side, but then it had like a place for all the cartridges. It could hold maybe 10 cartridges. Nah, probably not that many. Maybe 8.
Wow.
See, Tim, that's how you wrap an episode.
I stand corrected. Hey, Tom. Happy birthday.
Thank you. And hey, Game Boy.
Yeah.
Happy birthday.
Oh, thanks.
That was a HeadGum podcast.